Thanks for watching HCAM. If you want to help create content like this, become an HCAM member. As a member, you'll have access to professional quality equipment and software, as well as guidance from HCAM staff. Come see us at 35 Pond Park Road, Suite 8, conveniently located near Route 3 and Derby Street in Hingham.
Ladies and gentlemen, uniformed troops, up-teen, ho, bugler, sound to the colors. You guys might want to all turn around right about now because they're going to come in behind you. Okay, everybody turn around. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing as student athlete Nick Capodalupo from Hingham's Patriot League Championship Wrestling team recites his rendition of our national anthem. Pull it right out if you want. Raise it! Pull! Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Harder! Ho! Good job, Nick. Great job. Nice job. Great job, Nick. Thank you. Please bow your heads as I recite the Soldier's Prayer in honor of Raymond Buddy Campbell. Dearest Lord, teach me to be generous. Teach me to serve you as you deserve, to give and not to count the cost, to fight and not to heed the wounds, to toil, not to seek rest, to labor and not ask for reward, save that knowing I am doing your will. Amen. Please be seated if you have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to be here today to unveil this memorial stone on this beautiful Patriots' Day. And I am so honored to have the following individuals with me today. My name is Senior Chief Petty Officer Keith German of the U.S. Navy Seabees 7th Construction Regiment. I am also the town's Veteran Director of Veteran Services, and I will be the MC today. I'll run through the entire list. You can pause as necessary. First, I'd like to recognize United States Congressman of the 8th District, Stephen Lynch, for his attendance. For Massachusetts Secretary of Veteran Services, Francisco Urena Joe Tricelli. State Representative Joan Machino. Board of Selectmen Chair Paul Healy. Selectman Paul Gannon. Selectman Mary Power. Town Clerk Eileen McCracken. Current Police Chief Glenn Olson. Former Hingham Police Chief Michael Perino. Former Chief Borowski. State Representative James Murphy could not be here today, and State Senator Patrick O'Connor has provided for us one of his staffers, Lou Rizzo. Lou, thank you for coming. We will begin today's event with some remarks by our Congressman. Again, very honored to have him in our presence. We love to have him down in Hingham, and I know he appreciates coming down here, especially when the weather's nice. So thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Keith. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And thank you, Senior Chief Petty Officer Keith German, for the kind introduction and also your invitation to join you this morning as we honor a true hometown hero and American hero, the late Raymond Bud Campbell. Before I begin, I just want to say that I represent, as a member of Congress for the 8th District, I have the wonderful honor of representing 19 towns and 3 cities. And so because of the great work of Joan Machino and Pat O'Connor at the state level, each town and city has their own veteran service officer. And some towns have combined so they have one individual representing several towns. But I have to say that of all the towns and cities that I represent, there is no one better than Keith German in terms of representing the veterans and their families in this district and probably in this country. So thank you very much for your great work. And not only does he serve our veterans, but as many of you know, he's done repeated deployments, and we're grateful for his courageous service in that respect as well. From his heroic military service as a veteran of World War II, serving in the 3rd Army under General George Patton, to his more than 30 years of dedicated service to the Hingham Police Department, Bud Campbell will be forever remembered for his courageous service to our country and this local community. A lifelong resident of Hingham, Bud Campbell rose through the ranks of the Hingham Police Department and was widely respected by the men and women of the Hingham Police Force. For almost 20 years, Bud Campbell served as Hingham's Chief of Police, expanding the force and professionalizing it, building a joint effort with the Hingham Fire Department to ensure that all police officers and firefighters received advanced first aid training. And this training certainly, without question, helped save lives across the town of Hingham and in our surrounding communities. For his illustrious service in Normandy, the Ardennes, northern France, and the Rhineland as a member of General Patton's 3rd Army, Bud Campbell was awarded 4 battle stars. And as we mark Patriots Day across Massachusetts today, I think it's fitting that we are forever memorializing a true American patriot with the dedication of the memorial stone plaque in honor of Bud Campbell. I had a chance to meet with some of our students from Hingham High School who are here today, and I just want to say it warms my heart to see our high school students out here honoring someone who really, I think, was a blessing not only on this community but on our country. But I want to thank all the young men here from Hingham High School. Thank you very much. I also want to thank the Hingham Police Association color guard who is with us here today, and also our, well, represented from across the South Shore, our honor guard as well. Thank you very much for your willingness to be here on behalf of Bud. You know, sometimes I think we take for granted the service and sacrifice of those who came before us. That's not happening today, however, because the town of Hingham has chosen this spot and this occasion to honor one of their members of the greatest generation. You know, my mother-in-law, Helen Shaughnessy, she's a Gold Star sister. When you think about the Second World War and what happened, and how an entire generation of Americans, some of them in high school, these young men's age, some of them raising families, they put aside their own lives, and in response to the draft that was instituted by President Roosevelt, they stepped up and they served this country in a brutal and long war on behalf of democracy and freedom around the world. My mother always told stories about my grandfather. My grandfather and my father and 4 of my uncles were all drafted on the same day, right after Pearl Harbor. My grandfather was not happy. He had already served, he was 17 when he served in the First World War. And yet, you wonder if the same sacrifice was demanded of us today, whether we would respond with the patriotism and the willingness that previous generations have served. I just came back from Iraq on Tuesday. I had a chance to visit with a lot of Massachusetts men and women, a lot of women serving. Unlike in previous conflict, we have a lot of women serving in uniform on the front lines in Iraq and in Afghanistan. But so many of them, when I asked them, and I ask this question often, I say, what caused you to put on that uniform? And this is last week in Iraq. And more often than not, the answer is this: well, my dad served in Korea, or my dad served in Vietnam, or my grandfather served in the Second World War. And the power of that example still serves us today, the power of the greatest generation. So we owe that not only to Bud Campbell, but the entire generation of which he belonged. I want to thank the Hingham Veterans Council under the leadership of Chairman David Sargent and Vice Chairman John Buckley, as well as I've mentioned before, Senior Chief Petty Officer Keith German, the Director of Veteran Services, for honoring the service and sacrifice of Bud Campbell. He was a true citizen soldier. The town of Hingham today proudly honors its veterans, ensuring they receive quality of care and service that they have earned. Under your leadership, the town of Hingham never forgets a fallen hero and ensures that we always remember the dedication and courageous patriotism of active duty servicemen and women, veterans and their families. So as we honor the life and legacy of Bud Campbell today, we remember all of our veterans who call Hingham home, and we salute them. God bless you all. May God bless Bud Campbell and his family. May God bless the town of Hingham. And may God bless these United States of America. Thank you. Cool.
Again, great to have him here. I'm glad he mentioned that he was in Iraq. I was kidding with him when I first saw him pull up today. He's been there more times than I have now officially. So he does great things over there, and each and every time I can swear to you and tell you that he does call us all together. He asks all those men and women who are from Massachusetts to gather around him. We usually have some sort of a little private meet and greet, and it touches our hearts, I can tell you that, to know that somebody back home that important is still worried about us. So it's a great thing. Before we move on to the principal speaker, Chairman Healy, I'd like to introduce to my left, next to Joe Triscelli with his Navy hat on, a former Korean War test pilot for the U.S. Navy, Massachusetts State Trooper, and personal good friend of Bud. In fact, he's so good, he was available to bring out some of his old photos and clippings, which I have on parade over at GAR Hall, about a kidnapping that happened here back in 1957, and his name is former Massachusetts State Police Trooper Richard Jennings. I'd also like to thank the Hingham Municipal Light Board for their beautiful display and a great tribute to Bud. I see the ancient and honorable artillery company is present, men I know from Hingham for many years. The spot was chosen for a reason. We're directly across from Linscott Road. Bud Campbell was a Linscott, part of that family. This location was strategically chosen for that reason, and that reason alone. There are members of his family here. If you would just kindly raise your hands, members of the Linscott and Campbell family, we're glad to have you here today. And when we get to unveil the stone, I'm going to be calling a former Hingham Police Department officer, Gary Linscott, to assist me with unveiling the stone at the end of today's event. And now, without further ado, I'd like to recognize our chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Paul Healy, a former sergeant of the Hingham Police Force himself, and I believe served under Bud, but I'll let him tell you that story. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. The Chief is indeed correct. I did serve under Chief Campbell, and it was a privilege and a pleasure. And it's good to see people standing out there today who were brother officers who served along with me during that time. I'm sure they have their own memories as we stand here today. I'll be brief. I speak of Raymond Campbell from the perspective of one who served under his command in the Hingham Police Department. But I believe that much of what formed him was his experience as a soldier in the 4th Armored Division, in the 3rd Army under General George Patton. When Ray Campbell finished high school and enlisted to fight the forces of darkness in 1943, the issue of the free world was in doubt. The evil we as a people confronted made his mission clear. There was one order in General Patton's 3rd Army: seek out the enemy, trap them, and destroy them. The 3rd Army under Patton didn't believe in defensive tactics. Ray Campbell served in the 4th Armored Division in the 3rd Army. Their unofficial nickname was, "They shall be known by their deeds alone." In June 1944, Patton told his troops, "You're not all going to die. Every man is scared in his first action. If he says he's not, he's a liar. The real hero is the man who fights even though he's scared. The real man never lets his fear of death overpower his sense of honor, his sense of duty to his country." Ray Campbell was one of those men. Once ashore in July 44, the fabled speed of the 3rd Army's advance into France is a thing of legends. The 4th Armored drove the Germans from the Falaise pocket, liberated the city of Metz, and was poised to strike into the Saar, until confronted with a lightning German strike that we now know in history as the Battle of the Bulge. In December 16, 1944, Hitler smashed into the Ardennes, overwhelmed the Allies, and threatened to drive us back into the sea. In a period of 3 days, the 3rd Army drove north, and relieved the beleaguered 101st Airborne in the city of Bastogne. Ray Campbell was the tip of the spear in the 4th Armored Division. That fighting ethos stayed with him all of his life. As a young soldier, Raymond Campbell spent 230 days in combat, continuing on after Bastogne to fight his way into Germany, opening the way for Allied forces to defeat the Nazi regime. He made his way to Austria and participated in the liberation of the Mauthausen concentration camp, known as the Bone Grinder. That experience never left him. When Raymond Campbell returned to his hometown here in Hingham, he soon turned to serving his country once again. He joined the Hingham Police in 1949 and rose through the ranks to become one of its longest-serving chiefs. Just a few feet away, on Linscott Road, he and his wife Helen raised a family. Many of us gathered here today, including all of our former chiefs, Joachimingo Borowski, sir, Michael Perino, sir, and present Chief Glenn Olson, sir. All served under his command. His nephew Gary Linscott and I also had that privilege of calling him Chief. Joining us for today's event is a special guest, former Massachusetts State Trooper Dick Jennings. Trooper Jennings and his young partner, who had only been on the job 2 days, found themselves pinned down in a gunfight on Derby and Whiting Streets. When I spoke with Trooper Jennings a few days ago, the memory of December 15, 1957 was as clear then as it was almost 60 years ago. One thing is clear: Dick Jennings would not have lived to see his 1-month-old son, now a grown man, if it was not for Ray Campbell coming into a running gunfight with guns blazing without any thought of his own safety to help a brother officer in distress. Many of us standing here today silently remember our own memories of the chief. There was no clearer line than Ray Campbell's commitment to the police mission. He was a law and order man, and every man who served under him knew it. The clarity of his perspective against lawbreakers and the protection of his community was well known. Woe to those breaking the law in Hingham. Chief Raymond Campbell was not your friend. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was not a good place to be. His commitment to the victim was well known, and his dogged pursuit of justice served as a template for those that followed him. He was a cop's cop. His contribution to Hingham lives on in the excellence our police department enjoys today. As a soldier, he battled the forces of darkness. As a police officer, and later as Hingham's police chief, he committed himself to protect and serve our community that makes him long remembered, well after he has left this world for the next. By dedicating this plaque to his memory, we honor his service as a patriot, both as a soldier in time of war and as a policeman protecting our community. May his dedication and commitment to justice serve as a guide-on for generations to come. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Chairman Healy. At this time, I will simply read what's written on the plaque. We will unveil that briefly after we conclude the ceremony. But with that said, I'd like to thank those who helped make this plaque and this stone a reality. Members of the Hingham Veterans Council, under the leadership of Dave Sargent as chairman, and as the subcommittee chair for this memorial event, Janine Shiseki, if you could please raise your hand so you can be recognized. The beautiful bronze plaque simply reads Raymond C. Campbell, Bud, in parentheses, 1923 to 2012, remembered for service to country and community. It's flanked by the European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal and the Chief of the Hingham, Massachusetts Police Department badge. United States Army, 1943 to 1946. 4 battle stars, Northern France, Rhineland, the Ardennes, and Central Europe. Hingham Police, 1949 to 1982. Patrolman, Sergeant, Detective. Town of Hingham Chief of Police, 1963 to 1982. At this time, in honor of Bud, both as the citizen and soldier, the combined honor guard of the American Legion Post number 120 and the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 6053, both of which Bud was an active participant, will fire a rifle volley, followed by the playing of taps by our bugler, Ernie Sophis. Commander, take charge of your troops. Please stand. Raise it! Whoo! Bugler, sound taps! If I could get the members of the delegation to my left to join me over here to my right, we'll form a procession line. Members of the Lynn Scott family, please join me at the stone. All others, please remain standing for 1 minute before we retire the colors. Again, I'd like to thank the young men who came out today from Hingham High School Veterans Appreciation Club. Another round of applause for those young men. If we could get the Lynn Scott family, the Campbell family, to pull the clasp, remove the bunting,